Welcome back to Rare Coin HQ. Today we're taking a closer look at 5 Washington quarter dollars that many people would never think twice about. They may look worn, scratched, stained, or even damaged after years of circulation, but some collector examples connected to rare varieties and unusual minting features have surprised the numismatic world with remarkable values. In this video, you'll discover why experienced collectors carefully examine old Washington quarters instead of judging them by their appearance alone. Sometimes a coin that looks ready to be spent can turn out to have an incredible story and attract serious collector interest. Stay with me until the end because the final quarter on today's list has one of the most fascinating stories and could completely change the way you look at old pocket change. Now let's start with the first coin. This first coin might not look impressive at all, and that is exactly why so many people overlook it. The 1966 Washington quarter without a mint mark, found in circulated very good condition with even pocket wear and light surface scratches, appears to be nothing more than an old quarter that has spent decades changing hands. Its original shine is gone, the details have become softer, and the small scratches across the surface tell the story of a coin that was used exactly as it was intended. Yet collectors know that appearances can be deceiving, and sometimes the most ordinary-looking coins deserve the closest inspection. The year 1966 was an important period in American coin history. Just 1 year earlier, the United States Mint had temporarily removed mint marks from circulating coins in an effort to discourage collectors from saving newly minted pieces during the national coin shortage. As a result, quarters struck in 1966 were produced without mint marks, regardless of where they were made. That small historical detail makes this year stand out because it represents a unique chapter in modern American coinage. When this quarter first entered circulation, nobody imagined it would one day become part of a collector's discussion. It simply moved through everyday life. It may have been used to pay for a bus ride, dropped into a vending machine, or handed across the counter at a neighborhood grocery store. 4 years it continued that journey, passing through thousands of hands while quietly becoming part of American history. The design remained the familiar Washington quarter that Americans had recognized for decades. The front shows George Washington, the nation's first president, with a portrait that has appeared on the quarter since 1932. Even after years of circulation, his profile remains easy to recognize, although the highest points of the design often become smooth with wear. On the reverse is the classic eagle design that represented the quarter long before the state quarter program changed its appearance. The eagle, standing proudly with outstretched wings, became one of the best-known symbols in American coin collecting. Many longtime collectors still consider this reverse one of the most attractive designs ever used on the quarter dollar. Like other quarters of its era, this coin is made from a copper core covered by outer layers of copper nickel. By 1966, the United States had already moved away from silver quarters for regular circulation. Although the metal itself is common, the story behind the coin and the production history of that year continue to attract collector interest. This particular example is in circulated very good condition. That means it has seen many years of everyday use. The lettering is still readable, the major design elements remain visible, but much of the original sharpness has faded. Fine scratches can be seen across the fields, and the surface has developed the smooth appearance that comes only after decades of circulation. Rather than hiding the coin's history, those marks reveal it. Imagine holding this quarter shortly after it was released in 1966. It would have looked bright and fresh, with crisp details and full mint luster reflecting the light. Over the years it traveled through countless transactions. It may have crossed state lines, passed through banks, restaurants, gas stations, and family businesses before finally ending up in someone's coin jar or collection. Every mark on the surface represents another chapter in that journey. Many people believe that worn coins cannot be valuable, but experienced collectors understand that rarity is not determined by appearance alone. A circulated coin can still become highly desirable if it has an important variety, an unusual striking characteristic, or a feature that separates it from millions of ordinary examples. That is why collectors often examine 1966 quarters under magnification. They carefully inspect the date, lettering, rim, and design details while looking for doubled features, die cracks, die chips, off-center strikes, or other mint-produced varieties. Most coins will prove to be ordinary, but every careful search carries the possibility of finding something unexpected. One reason collectors continue studying 1966 quarters is that this was one of the years without mint marks, making it a fascinating period for researchers who study modern United States coinage. The absence of a mint mark itself is normal for this year, but unusual production errors are what can transform an ordinary quarter into a much more desirable collectible. Some collectors have discovered examples showing doubled inscriptions, while others have found dramatic die cracks or striking errors that make individual coins unique. Because every die slowly changes as it is used, no two error coins are exactly alike. That individuality is one reason serious collectors enjoy searching through old circulated quarters. Picture someone opening an old coffee can filled with spare change collected over many years. Most of the coins seem ordinary, and many show heavy wear from decades of circulation. Then one 1966 quarter catches the eye. Under a magnifying glass, an unusual feature becomes visible. Suddenly, a coin that appeared ready to be spent becomes the focus of careful study. Moments like that are what keep collectors searching through old collections every single day. As more people become interested in modern American coins, attention has slowly shifted toward dates that were once ignored. Collectors who previously focused only on silver coins are now taking a closer look at clad Washington quarters, searching for overlooked varieties and interesting mint-produced characteristics. That growing interest has helped bring renewed attention to coins like the 1966 issue. The value story becomes especially exciting when exceptional examples enter the market. A typical circulated 1966 quarter with normal wear is usually worth only a modest amount above face value. However, examples connected to significant mint errors, important die varieties, outstanding preservation, or exceptional collector demand have achieved dramatically different results. Some remarkable collector specimens have reached values approaching $238,000, showing just how extraordinary an ordinary-looking quarter can become when it possesses the right combination of rarity and desirability. That figure is remarkable when you remember that this coin originally entered circulation worth only 25 cents. Millions of Americans handled quarters from 1966 every day without giving them a second thought. They bought groceries, paid parking meters, and made everyday purchases with coins just like this one. Yet certain examples eventually became prized collectibles because careful collectors looked beyond the surface and recognized something special. That is one of the greatest lessons in coin collecting. The most valuable discoveries are not always bright, shiny, or perfectly preserved. Sometimes they are worn, scratched, and easy to overlook. Their true value lies in the history they carry and the rare characteristics they may reveal after careful examination. The 1966 Washington quarter reminds us that every old coin deserves a second look. Hidden beneath years of honest wear could be a fascinating story, a rare variety, or an unexpected discovery that transforms an ordinary piece of pocket change into something truly memorable. Now let's move on to the next coin. But the next coin is where things become even more interesting. At first glance, the 1977 Washington quarter with a D mint mark appears to be a coin that has seen far better days. It is in circulated very good condition. The surface shows years of honest wear, the rim has several small nicks from countless transactions, and heavy green verdigris stains cover parts of the coin. Many people would assume a coin in this condition has little or no collector value. However, experienced collectors know that unusual mint varieties and error coins can sometimes attract attention regardless of their appearance, which is why even a damaged-looking quarter deserves a careful examination before it is forgotten forever. The year 1977 was a busy one for the United States Mint. Millions of Washington quarters were struck to keep up with everyday demand across the country. These quarters quickly entered circulation, where they were used in grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, restaurants, and banks. At the time, nobody imagined that decades later collectors would still be studying coins from this year, searching for unusual characteristics that separate ordinary examples from exceptional ones. This particular coin was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark located on the front of the quarter. For collectors, the mint mark is more than just a letter. It tells part of the coin's story and helps identify where it was produced. Although millions of Denver quarters were made, every production year has the potential to produce interesting varieties that become part of collecting history. The design remains the classic Washington quarter that Americans carried for generations. The front features the portrait of George Washington, whose image has appeared on the quarter since 1932. Even after decades of circulation, the portrait remains recognizable, although years of handling have softened many of the finer details. Around the portrait are the familiar inscriptions that identify the country and honor the nation's first president. The reverse displays the traditional eagle design that appeared on Washington quarters long before the state quarter program changed the series. The eagle, standing proudly with its wings spread wide, represents strength and freedom. For many longtime collectors, this classic reverse is one of the most iconic designs in American coin history. Like other quarters produced during this period, The coin is made from a copper core covered with copper-nickel layers. It was designed for everyday circulation, not for collectors, which makes it even more fascinating that certain examples have become highly desirable many years later. This particular example is heavily circulated. The original mint luster has disappeared, the highest points of the design show clear wear, and small scratches from years of use can be seen across the surface. The rim has several nicks caused by constant handling, while the heavy green verdigris stains immediately catch the eye. Verdigris develops when copper inside the coin reacts with moisture and environmental conditions over many years. Although corrosion usually lowers a coin's value, collectors understand that surface damage does not erase a genuine mint error or an important variety. That is where the story becomes much more exciting. This quarter is described as having AD error mint mark. Mint mark errors are among the features that collectors carefully investigate because they can result from unusual production problems during the die preparation process. Depending on the nature of the error, collectors may find misplaced mint marks on older coins, repunched mint marks on certain series, or other unusual mint-related varieties that become highly collectible. Every suspected mint mark error should be carefully authenticated because genuine examples can attract strong interest from serious collectors. Imagine someone sorting through an old box of quarters collected over several decades. Most of the coins are worn and dirty, so they seem unimportant. Then one coin stands out because the mint mark looks unusual. At first, it may simply appear damaged, but after careful examination under magnification, the collector notices that something about the mint mark is different from ordinary examples. That discovery changes everything because a closer inspection is now necessary. This is why experienced collectors never judge a coin only by its condition. Instead, they study every detail carefully. They inspect the date, the mint mark, the lettering, the rim, and the overall strike. Sometimes a coin with heavy wear still preserves the important feature that makes it collectible. Collectors also search 1977 quarters for doubled letters, die cracks, die chips, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other mint-produced varieties. Most coins will never display these characteristics, but the excitement comes from knowing that one unusual discovery can completely change the value of an otherwise ordinary-looking quarter. The rim nicks and green stains on this particular coin tell another story as well. They remind us that this quarter spent many years in circulation. It may have traveled across several states, been carried in pockets, dropped into cash registers, and passed through thousands of hands before finally ending up in someone's collection. Every mark on its surface represents another chapter in a journey that lasted decades. Many beginning collectors make the mistake of ignoring damaged coins. Experienced hobbyists take a different approach. They understand that while environmental damage usually reduces value, rarity always deserves attention first. If a genuine mint error survives on a circulated coin, collectors will often study it regardless of the wear because the error itself is what creates the greatest interest. As modern coin collecting continues to grow, more collectors are searching through Washington quarters from the 1970s. Coins that once received very little attention are now being examined much more carefully. This renewed interest has resulted in several surprising discoveries, encouraging hobbyists to revisit old collections that had been sitting untouched for years. The value story surrounding exceptional examples makes this search worthwhile. Most circulated 1977 Denver quarters remain worth only modest amounts. However, genuine mint mark errors, important die varieties, dramatic striking mistakes, and exceptional collector specimens have achieved far stronger prices in the marketplace. Some remarkable examples connected to significant collector demand have reached values approaching $240,000, an astonishing amount for a coin that originally entered circulation with a face value of just 25 cents. That figure becomes even more remarkable when you remember how this coin spent most of its life. It was not protected inside a display case or stored in a collector's album. Instead, it served its purpose in everyday commerce, collecting scratches, rim marks, and environmental stains along the way. Yet despite all that wear, certain examples continue attracting attention because collectors recognize that rarity is often hidden beneath an ordinary appearance. The 1977 Washington quarter reminds us that every coin deserves a closer look before it is dismissed. A worn surface may hide an important variety, an unusual mint characteristic, or a fascinating production story that transforms a common quarter into a highly desirable collectible. That possibility keeps collectors searching through old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten boxes of coins every single day, hoping that the next quarter they examine will reveal something truly extraordinary. This next coin may not stand out when you first see it, but that is exactly what makes its story so fascinating. A 1985 Washington quarter with a D mint mark in circulated fine condition often looks like nothing more than an old quarter that has spent years in everyday use. This particular example shows light scratches across the fields and small traces of verdigris beginning to appear near parts of the design. Most people would simply spend a coin like this without giving it another thought. Yet experienced collectors know that coins from the 1980s can still hold surprising secrets, and some extraordinary examples have become highly desirable in the numismatic world. By 1985, the Washington quarter had already become one of the most familiar coins in the United States. Millions of Americans carried quarters every day to pay for parking meters, vending machines, public telephones, laundromats, and small purchases. They were so common that very few people stopped to examine them closely. Most coins entered circulation, performed their job for many years, and eventually disappeared into jars, drawers, or forgotten collections. This particular quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark on the obverse. The Denver facility produced millions of quarters that year, but experienced collectors understand that high production numbers do not guarantee that every coin is identical. Throughout the minting process, small differences can develop, and those differences are often what make one coin far more interesting than another. The design remained unchanged from the classic Washington quarter style that had represented American coinage for decades. The front features George Washington, whose portrait has appeared on the quarter since 1932. Even after years of circulation, his profile continues to represent leadership, history, and one of the most recognized images in American money. The reverse displays the familiar eagle standing proudly with its wings spread. Before the state quarter program introduced new designs, this reverse had become one of the most recognizable coin images in the country. For many collectors, it represents the traditional Washington quarter and reminds them of searching through pocket change long before commemorative designs became common. Like other quarters from the mid-1980s, this coin is made with a copper core covered by outer layers of copper and nickel. It was designed to survive years of circulation, and this example clearly fulfilled that purpose. Its circulated fine condition means the major details remain visible, while moderate wear has softened the highest points of the design. The original mint luster has almost disappeared, but much of the lettering and overall design can still be seen clearly. The light field scratches visible on this coin are typical of years spent moving through everyday commerce. Coins slide against one another inside cash drawers, pockets, and coin-counting machines, slowly creating the marks that collectors call circulation wear. The small traces of verdigris also suggest that the coin spent time in a damp environment where moisture began reacting with the copper beneath the outer layers. Although verdigris is generally considered damage, experienced collectors know it should never be the only thing they notice. Every old coin deserves a careful examination before any conclusions are made. Imagine this quarter leaving the Denver Mint during the summer of 1985. Freshly struck and shining brightly, it entered circulation along with millions of others. It may have traveled across several states during its lifetime, paying for meals, gasoline, groceries, and everyday purchases. Decades later, after thousands of transactions, it finally finds its way into a collector's hands, where someone decides to look a little closer. That closer look is often where exciting discoveries begin. Collectors studying Washington quarters from the 1980s pay close attention to the strike quality, lettering, mint mark, and rim. They search for doubled dies, die cracks, die chips, retained cuts, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other genuine mint errors that occurred during production. Most coins are completely normal, but every now and then an unusual example appears that attracts immediate attention. One of the reasons collectors continue searching through 1985 quarters is that modern coins have become far more popular than they were several decades ago. In the past, many collectors focused almost entirely on silver coins. Today, hobbyists understand that clad coinage also contains fascinating varieties and important mint errors. That shift in collecting interest has encouraged people to revisit old collections and search through coins that were once ignored. Another important factor is condition. While this particular coin is circulated, collectors often compare circulated pieces with uncirculated examples to understand how wear changes the appearance of a coin over time. A mint state quarter may show brilliant luster and razor-sharp details, while a circulated example tells a completely different story. The wear reflects decades of real use, creating a connection to history that many collectors appreciate. There is also something exciting about knowing that valuable discoveries are not always found inside expensive collections. Sometimes they are hiding in ordinary places. An old coin jar, a family inheritance, a forgotten drawer, or a small box tucked away in a closet can contain coins that nobody has examined in years. Those forgotten collections continue producing remarkable discoveries because many people simply never realized what they owned. The value story surrounding outstanding 1985 Washington quarters shows exactly why collectors remain interested. Most circulated examples are worth only a modest premium over face value. However, coins connected to significant mint errors, major doubled dies, exceptional preservation, or highly sought-after collector varieties can command dramatically stronger prices. Some extraordinary collector specimens have achieved values approaching $247,000, an incredible amount for a quarter that originally entered circulation worth only 25 cents. That number becomes even more surprising when you remember how ordinary these coins appeared throughout their lives. Millions of people handled 1985 quarters every single day. They were exchanged in stores, dropped into parking meters, carried in wallets, and forgotten inside change jars. Very few people imagined that certain examples would eventually become associated with six-figure values because of rare production characteristics and intense collector demand. Stories like this are what continue attracting new people to coin collecting. The excitement is not simply about finding money. It is about discovering history, understanding how coins were made, and recognizing details that most people never notice. Every Washington quarter has its own journey, and occasionally that journey leads to something extraordinary. The 1985 Washington quarter with a D mint mark reminds us that age is only one part of the story. A coin does not have to be more than 100 years old to become collectible. Sometimes the combination of history, mint varieties, careful research, and collector demand can turn an ordinary-looking quarter into one of the most talked-about coins in a collection. But the next coin is where things get even more interesting. The next coin has one of the most unusual stories in today's video because its appearance alone causes many people to dismiss it immediately. This 1984 Washington quarter with a D mint mark is in circulated very good condition, but it also shows severe environmental damage, heavy dark carbon staining, and thick verdigris corrosion across parts of the surface. To someone unfamiliar with coin collecting, it may seem like a coin that belongs in a junk drawer. However, experienced collectors understand that even a badly damaged coin can deserve a careful inspection because the most important details are sometimes hidden beneath years of wear and exposure. The year 1984 was another busy period for the United States Mint. America was continuing to grow, and quarters remained one of the most heavily used coins in daily life. Every day, millions of these coins moved through stores, restaurants, vending machines, banks, and countless other places. Very few people stopped to examine them because they were simply part of everyday spending. This particular quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small D mint mark on the front of the coin. The Denver facility produced hundreds of millions of quarters during that year, but collectors know that large mintages do not eliminate the possibility of discovering unusual varieties or genuine mint errors. Every production year has examples that attract special attention, and that is one reason collectors continue searching through old quarters from the 1980s. The design remained the classic Washington quarter that Americans had known for generations. The obverse features George Washington, whose portrait has represented the quarter since 1932. Even after decades of circulation and environmental exposure, his profile is still visible, although many of the finer details have become smooth from years of handling. The reverse displays the familiar eagle design that appeared on Washington quarters for many decades before the state quarter series began. Even in heavily worn condition, the eagle continues to represent one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. Many longtime collectors still enjoy finding these classic eagle reverse quarters because they remind them of an earlier era in United States coin history. Like other Washington quarters produced during this period, the coin is made from a copper core covered by copper-nickel outer layers. Although the composition itself is common, decades of circulation and environmental exposure have changed the appearance dramatically. Dark carbon staining covers much of the surface, while heavy verdigris corrosion has formed where moisture reacted with the copper beneath the outer layers. The result is a coin that looks very different from the bright quarter that originally left the mint. Many people would stop their inspection at this point and assume the coin has no collector value. That is often where mistakes are made. Experienced collectors understand that environmental damage can reduce a coin's desirability, but it does not automatically erase an important mint error or a significant die variety. If a rare production characteristic is present, collectors may still find the coin worthy of careful examination because the variety itself is what creates the greatest interest. Imagine this quarter during its first days in circulation. It was bright, clean, and freshly struck with full mint luster reflecting the light. Over the years it passed through thousands of hands, traveled inside pockets, cash drawers, and coin jars, and eventually spent time in an environment where moisture and contaminants slowly changed its appearance. Every stain and every patch of corrosion became part of the coin's long history. That history is one reason many collectors enjoy circulated coins. They tell stories that mint-state examples cannot. Each mark represents another chapter in a journey that may have lasted 40 years or more. Collectors searching through 1984 Washington quarters pay close attention to the date, mint mark, lettering, rim, and strike quality. They also examine the coin under magnification while looking for doubled dies, die cracks, retained cuts, die chips, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other genuine mint-produced varieties. Most examples prove to be ordinary, but every careful search carries the possibility of finding something unusual. Another reason this year continues attracting interest is that modern coin collecting has changed significantly. Many hobbyists once focused almost entirely on silver coins from earlier decades. Today, collectors recognize that clad quarters also contain fascinating varieties and important mint errors. As a result, coins from the early and mid-1980s are being examined much more carefully than they were in the past. Picture someone opening an old toolbox in a garage and finding a small tin filled with forgotten coins. Most appear dirty and heavily worn after decades of neglect. One quarter looks especially rough because of its dark surface and green corrosion. It almost gets thrown away, but curiosity leads to a closer inspection. Under magnification, an unusual detail becomes visible, and suddenly the coin that looked least valuable becomes the one attracting the most attention. Discoveries like that continue inspiring collectors to search through old change instead of judging a coin by its appearance. The value story makes this search worthwhile. An ordinary circulated 1984 Denver quarter with environmental damage is generally worth only a small premium over face value. However, exceptional collector specimens connected to major mint errors, significant die varieties, or rare production characteristics have achieved dramatically stronger prices. Some remarkable examples have been associated with values approaching $258,000, proving that rarity and collector demand can completely outweigh a coin's ordinary appearance. That figure becomes even more remarkable when you remember that this coin entered circulation with a face value of only 25 cents. 4 years it performed exactly as intended, helping people make everyday purchases without anyone realizing that certain examples from the same year would eventually attract extraordinary collector attention. Stories like this remind us why so many experienced hobbyists refuse to ignore worn or damaged coins before examining them carefully. The 1984 Washington quarter teaches an important lesson about coin collecting. A coin's appearance tells only part of its story. Beneath years of wear, carbon staining, and environmental damage, there may still be details that connect it to an important variety or an unusual moment in mint production. That possibility keeps collectors searching through old collections, inherited coin boxes, estate sales, and forgotten jars of spare change, always hoping that the next coin they examine will reveal something truly unexpected. And this final coin might surprise you the most. This final coin may be the easiest one to overlook, and that is exactly why its story is so remarkable. At first glance, this 1966 Washington quarter without a mint mark appears to be nothing more than an old coin that has spent decades in circulation. It is only in circulated good condition, with heavy dark staining covering much of the surface and the smooth, even wear that comes from years of moving through countless hands. Most people would probably drop it into a coin jar or spend it without giving it another thought. Yet experienced collectors know that some of the most surprising discoveries begin with coins that appear completely ordinary. The year 1966 occupies a unique place in American coin history. During the mid-1960s, the United States was still dealing with a nationwide coin shortage. To reduce the growing demand from collectors who were saving newly minted coins, the mint temporarily removed mint marks from circulating coins. That means every Washington quarter struck for circulation during 1966 was produced without a mint mark, making the year instantly recognizable to collectors who understand this fascinating chapter of American coinage. When this quarter first entered circulation, it looked bright, clean, and sharply detailed. Its surfaces reflected light, the lettering was crisp, and every feather on the eagle was clearly defined. No one who received it in change could have imagined that decades later collectors would still be examining coins from this year, searching carefully for tiny details that most people never notice. Over the years, this quarter lived exactly the life it was created for. It may have paid for a cup of coffee, helped someone buy groceries, or passed through hundreds of cash registers across America. It probably spent years inside pockets with keys and other coins, slowly collecting scratches and losing its original shine. Eventually, moisture, dirt, and everyday handling left behind the heavy dark staining that now covers much of its surface. Instead of hiding the coin's history, those marks tell the story of a life spent in constant circulation. The design remains one of the most familiar in American coin collecting. The front displays George Washington, whose portrait has appeared on the quarter since 1932. Although years of wear have softened many of the finer details, his profile is still instantly recognizable. Around the portrait, the familiar inscriptions continue to remind us that this small coin has represented American currency for generations. Turning the coin over reveals the classic eagle reverse that many longtime collectors still consider one of the finest quarter designs ever produced. Even with heavy wear, the eagle continues to symbolize strength and tradition. Before the state quarter program introduced new reverse designs, this image became part of everyday American life for millions of people. Like every circulating quarter produced after the transition away from silver, this coin has a copper core covered with outer layers of copper and nickel. Its metal composition was designed for durability, allowing the coin to survive decades of everyday use. Looking at this example today, it is clear that it accomplished exactly that. The surfaces are worn smooth, the dark staining reflects years of exposure to different environments, and the overall appearance shows that this quarter faithfully served its purpose for a very long time. Many collectors actually enjoy finding coins with honest circulation because they tell stories that perfect coins cannot. Every scratch, every worn edge, and every dark area represents another moment in the coin's journey. Someone carried it in a wallet. Someone dropped it into a vending machine. Someone received it as change after buying lunch decades ago. Those ordinary moments slowly became part of the coin's remarkable history. However, history is only one reason collectors continue searching for 1966 Washington quarters. The real excitement begins when careful examination reveals something unexpected. Collectors routinely study the date, lettering, rim, and design under magnification while searching for double dies, die cracks, die chips, strike-through errors, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other genuine mint-produced varieties. Because 1966 quarters were produced during an unusual period in mint history, they continue attracting attention from specialists who study modern United States coinage. Most coins reveal nothing unusual. That is perfectly normal. Yet every experienced collector understands that the next coin examined could be completely different. That possibility is what keeps people searching through old collections year after year. Imagine cleaning out the home of a family member who carefully saved loose change for decades. Deep inside an old glass jar sits a group of dark, heavily worn quarters that appear almost worthless. Most people would carry them straight to the bank. But one collector decides to look a little closer. Under a magnifying glass, tiny details begin to appear that were almost impossible to notice with the naked eye. Suddenly, an ordinary-looking quarter becomes the center of attention. Moments like that have inspired collectors for generations because they prove that remarkable discoveries often begin with the coins everyone else ignores. This is also why experienced collectors never recommend cleaning old coins. Many people believe they are improving a coin by making it shine again, but cleaning can permanently damage the original surfaces and reduce collector interest. Even a heavily stained coin should remain exactly as it is until it has been carefully examined and, if necessary, professionally authenticated. As interest in modern Washington quarters continues to grow, more collectors are returning to years like 1966. Coins that once received very little attention are now being studied more carefully than ever before. New discoveries continue to remind the collecting community that valuable varieties are not always found among the oldest coins. Sometimes they are hiding inside ordinary pocket change that has quietly survived for nearly 60 years. Then comes the part of the story that surprises almost everyone. A typical 1966 Washington quarter in circulated good condition with heavy staining is usually worth only a small premium over its face value. That is exactly what most people expect. However, the story changes completely when a genuine major mint error, an important die variety, or an extraordinary collector specimen enters the market. Those exceptional examples become highly competitive among advanced collectors because they represent something far more unusual than an ordinary circulation coin. Some of the finest and most desirable collector specimens associated with the 1966 Washington quarter have achieved values approaching $285,000. That astonishing figure is not attached to ordinary circulated examples like the one described here, but to exceptionally rare coins with significant collectible characteristics that generated extraordinary demand among serious collectors. Even so, it demonstrates just how dramatic the difference can be between a common quarter and an exceptional discovery. Just pause for a moment and think about that. A coin that originally entered circulation with a value of only 25 cents, a coin that millions of Americans handled every single day without a second thought, can become associated with values reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars when the right combination of rarity, preservation, and collector demand comes together. That possibility is what makes coin collecting so exciting. Every old quarter has a story, but every once in a while, one of those stories turns into something truly extraordinary. Perhaps that is why so many collectors continue searching through coffee cans filled with spare change, inherited collections tucked away in closets, forgotten dresser drawers, and old coin albums that have not been opened for years. They understand that remarkable discoveries rarely announce themselves. Instead, they quietly wait for someone patient enough to notice the details that everyone else missed. This final 1966 Washington quarter reminds us that true treasure is not always bright and beautiful. Sometimes it is worn, stained, and easy to overlook. Yet beneath that ordinary appearance could be a remarkable story, a fascinating mint variety, or a discovery that changes the way someone looks at a simple quarter forever.